Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to take a deep dive look into Willow Episode 6, titled Prisoners of Skellen. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter and Hive at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. We look forward to connecting with you on those platforms. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. Finally, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations, and happy holiday season to everybody out there. I know most of the holidays have concluded at this point, but if you're still celebrating, that's awesome. And thank you for making Force Ghost Conversations a part of your holiday celebrations. Now, I will be, I have to, talk about the elephant in the room here. This episode is being released on New Year's Day, so happy 2023, everybody. I hope that you are looking forward to the new year and all the new promises that it brings with it. So happy New Year to all of you, and happy New Year to Force Ghost Conversations too. Make sure you stay tuned and subscribed, because there's so much coming down the pipeline in Star Wars in 2023, as well as Indiana Jones. Got a little bit of Willow heading into the new year too. And we're going to talk about each and every bit of it that is going to come out this new year. So looking at you, Mandalorian Season 3, looking at you, Bad Batch Season 2, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. All that great stuff is coming your way, and you can rest assured that there will be many episodes about all that coming soon to Force Ghost Conversations and a podcast site near you. Now, before we get into Willow Episode 6 and our deep dive discussion on that, let's run through the news this week, which really, we don't have a whole lot of news, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, because this is a slow news cycle because of the holiday season in our Affectionate Cloud City Gossip segment. Now, the only news item again for this week is that the Bad Batch Season 2 finally premieres next Wednesday. That's right, everybody. January 4th, the epic series returns to Disney Plus with a 2-episode premiere. Now, get ready for that, and you can rest assured again that we will talk about all of those episodes on Force Ghost Conversations. So with that, everybody, that's all the news for this week. Let's take a quick break here and come right back to analyze Willow Episode 6. Okay, folks, let's get into our Willow discussion here. And this is episode, I think, honestly, if it's up there in terms of like quality content, I think, overall for the series, like, I think at this point it's either 1 or 2 in terms if I had to rank them. And I don't really like ranking things here because I see the picture as a whole, as you should too. If you look at it from that kind of point of view, I think my favorite episode is either this one or episode 4, The Whispers of Nockmaar. And this episode, similar to The Whispers of Nockmaar, just has some really stellar acting performances, some great themes coming across here, and just, I think what this episode really had that the last 3 episodes, I think, just quick action, right? A lot of great action in this episode that really is at the heart of what Willow is and what the series is as a whole. Now, this is literally going off the cliffhanger of the episode from last week, episode 5, where Kit is picked up by a troll, and at the end of the episode, Alora is running around saying, "Willow, Willow, where are you at? Willow." Um, I didn't think at the time that Willow was also abducted. I thought he was just kind of like lost in the midst of the chaos of it all. That's kind of just where I interpreted that. But evidently, he was taken prisoner by the trolls too, and they are taken to Skellen, which is this like mine stronghold facility that Borman references in episode 5 when he's telling Scorpia this tale of how he was able to escape from Skellen. Which is really cool. I mean, you gotta think that the trolls have some sort of stronghold like they do, in this series. They gotta have some place that they, quote, unquote, "call home." We run into them in the original film and the remnants of Tir Asleen. It's not the nice, warm castle that we see the first couple episodes of this series, or the first episode of the series, I would say. It was a rundown mess left alone to its devices that these trolls kind of exploited and manipulated for their own gain. And now the trolls, when they were pushed out of that land, once Tirasleen was repopulated again, they found their new stronghold. Or maybe this was a stronghold beforehand that they've just continued to utilize. That could also be the case too. But we now have for certain what they are. And we get more aspects of what these trolls really are, what they do, what their purpose are, how they interact with each other. Because they're just like basically villain foils, if you will, in that scene that they're utilized in Willow, the original movie. We get to hear them talk. We get to hear that they have like an administration system. And that's all really cool and great. I loved absolutely everything that they dished in this episode, right? Trolls that talk. And you have to look at it from this point of view too here, where the connections to Solo, a Star Wars story, and the overall look of Skellen to me is very reminiscent of Kessel, right? Like I thought we were basically in the spice mines of Kessel when they're walking through the corridors of this grand space that is vast and full of unfortunately many slaves that have been taken throughout the land. And what we learn in this episode is that they're creating basically this vermiscus goo that basically from what we've learned before is that the withered crone utilizes this material for her evil. That is how evil spreads. That's what was going from Ballantyne and Merrick and Graydon when he was possessed too by the Lish. This is how they were able to utilize their power. And if that would have been, exposed to other folks, then they as well would have been faced with this evil that is permeating into their system. And evidently they can mine it from this, from the dunes of Skellen, if you will. That's wild, and that's what these slaves are here to do. That's what their purpose is. And of course, with that, you get the sense that the trolls are really in league with the withered crone. They are hand step locked together on this evil quest. Now, although the trolls may not seem to be, evil at first, right? I think they have like a warm, not necessarily warm, but it's a humorous nature to them when they interact with the members of the Fellowship Willow gang, if you will. They have this interesting, comedic style to them. I love what they did here, particularly with the main troll that talks throughout the episode, Lord Saris, who is the chief administrator of Skellen, who is, you may recall, is the one that tries to torture Kit to get them to work for them, to work for the trolls, to work for the Withered Crone, therefore. And he had a very similar dictation and vocal style as the Major Domo from the Book of Boba Fett. And if you recall our episodes where we took our deep dives into those, got to go back almost a year now and recall some of those episodes. And if you haven't, go check those out. Some great stuff there. A lot of fun in those early days of Force Ghost Conversations. We you know that I loved the Major Domo and every aspect of it. And when we got to the Mandalorian experience at Star Wars Celebration, that was one of the things that I beelined for in order to get a picture of. I loved the approach that that actor took to create that character, and he was also in She-Hulk, if the other Marvel Studios series that premiered on Disney Plus later this year, and everything that that actor did to embody that role was perfect to me. Right? Apologies. It was merely a scheduled vacation for the mayor. Right? All that stuff was great to me, and in particular, the one line where Lord Sarah said, "I deplore those who rouse rabble." Right when the one guy was like, "They're rebel rousing," and like, no, I deplore those who rouse rabble. Gosh, that was great. They got a good set of laughs out of me, and even on the rewatch, Mrs. Forsko's conversation was like, "Are they still your favorite?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." I am to a T. I love that comedic style, and it just worked with me all across the board here. So we got a sense of the trolls here again. They're working with the crone. They're procuring this promiscuous goo for her. And their main goal in this episode is to defeat Elora Danan. They can smell her, they sense her, they know that she's a part with this group here um, that Kit is a part of, and Willow. That's all there. That's all there. And that's what they're trying to do here, especially at the end of the episode when they're like, "Which one of you is Elora Danan?" That's what their main numero uno goal is to defeat her and create this I have to imagine, right? They're utilizing that as like to get in really good favor with the Withered Crone because they've made their bed in that one. They are solely in line with her. Now, moving on to another big aspect of this episode is Christian Slater. Christian Slater is in Willow, everybody. And he's been apparently the character that he portrays is stuck in this prison, the prison of Skellen, for about 10 years now. And I asked the question to you all at home. Did you believe the misdirect that he claimed to be? When our heroes are entrapped, Kit and Willow, into that cage, he's like, "I'm Mad Mardigan." But that's obviously not true. We know as an audience who is Mad Mardigan, and I know part of us was probably like, okay, maybe they recast him as Christian Slater because obviously of Val Kilmer's health and his probably inability to do the role, but maybe he can do. I don't know. That's certainly a hanging thread throughout this series at this point. As what's the deal with Mad Mardigan? And we'll talk about it in later in this podcast. But Kit can see through that lie. She knows who her dad is. She knows what her dad looks like, what he sounds like, and the MacGuffin of it all is that he really is Allagash. Christian Slater is this character known as Allagash that is mentioned in the previous episode by Borman when he shares the Scorpia again, how he did escape. But he's been using the name Mad Mardigan so that the real Mad Mardigan could try and find the Chimerian cuirass. Now, Allagash claims, though, that Borman was the one who initially betrayed them, and Borman claims that Allagash is the one that. So it's kind of a little back and forth here. You don't really can't trust either of them. They've got these both. They both have similar swashbuckling tendencies and all that. Mad Mardigan was really the one in the middle, probably keeping them sane and in line and towards this path that they were on to find this mysterious device. And Allagash claims that Mad Mardigan is still alive. Again, this hanging fruit that has been throughout the series of what's the deal with Mad Mardigan. And evidently, once you're able to get around, the caves and paths of Skellen are numerous. And who knows how much you could wander around these places for years and get lost in all of that. Eventually, the group does make their way out of those cages. They fight their way through. And obviously our other friends are not just going to leave them to suffer blindly. They follow them all the way to Skellen, and then they make a daring rescue attempt to save their friends. Now that's great. I love that. I love that. They should do that. Like, that's true friendship, is the unconditional nature of it all. We're going to save you no matter what. And we're going to do our darndest to do so, even against the greatest of circumstances. Even that, if that may require utilizing Borman's knowledge of the Skellen facility, going through the sewers, if you will, and that's putting it nicely. Going through the sewers, donning on these garbs that allow them to blend in so that they don't stand out amongst the trolls. Losing Graydon at one point too. I mean, that's not great. Graydon goes off with a troll group in order to do some cleaning on another sub level, while the rest of the group goes on. And of course, Graydon rejoins them later on. But golly gee, that must have been terrifying for him. And the tip of the iceberg, I mean, who knows what adventure he was on during that little interlude that we don't see him for a bit. Now, Graydon, again, is a lovesick puppy, and he's not great at timing at all in this episode, trying to have more deep conversations with Alora Dannon. And she's like, come on, all I want to do is focus on this. Please stop asking me how I feel, or if we're good, we're cool. It's fine right now. Let's just move on. But he keeps harking on it because he wants to share his true feelings with her, and he wants that reciprocated back. But golly gee, man, I think you're gonna have to take a hint at some point that now is not the time. Scorpia too goes off on her own from the group because she thinks that uh, she can do better work in saving people and creating potentially a diversion, in my mind, to distract the trolls from what they're actually doing here. And she sees the suffering, the burden that is going across this facility, right? The slave mines, if you will. I mean, I don't know if thousands, but there's a lot of people down there, more than she even suspected. And not just her own people, but we see some Nelwyn's, we see uh, other folks around the facility doing the slave labor, and she can do tremendous work in order to save all those folks at the end of the day. So that's where she goes off to, and the rest of the group goes on this hunt to try and find Kit and Willow. But in doing so, Alora loses Sherlandrea's wand. How do you do that? How do you do that, ladies and gentlemen? I could not imagine. I about lost it too. I was like, how do you drop a weapon of that magnitude? How is that not like safely tied to your outfit? How? I mean, come on now. She went back to that stinking outfit from earlier. I thought we were past that, and she was gonna lose those sleeves, but now evidently have not helped her to this point. That's for sure. And come on, you got to respect the major weapon that you have at your disposal. It's going to conjugate this magical force that you have within you. Yikes! Yikes! All of that. Now, eventually, the two groups do come together in the at Wiggleheim's tomb, who is a legendary Nelwyn adventurer. And this is supposedly this space where the Chimerian cuirass is to be located. This is where Borman was hunting for it. This is where Allagash was hunting for it. And they're both trying to kind of fix mistakes of the past. It seems like they're both haunted by what happened. And they do not embrace each other well. They get into a fist fight in this space. And they're going to continue fist fighting later on as all this comes to pass. Um, Eventually, they find a secret door and they can access the tomb, even though it's hidden in plain sight, which I thought was a neat detail. Kind of reminded me of the Penelope, the part from not Raid, but the Last Crusade, where Indy's able to walk across the space there when he's trying to find the Holy Grail. Thought that was a neat, just little like connection to me personally. Maybe not for you, but it worked for me, though, at the end of the day. And inside the tomb, in order to access the treasure space, there was a series of riddles that one needed to complete in order to enter the treasure room. Now, the first answer, because I didn't record all the riddles, but it makes sense when you go back, watch the episode, listen to it, and all that. It's there. The first answer is a name. And the other answer for the second question is nothing. And I was a big fan of the inclusion of this riddle sequence. It has ties, certainly, to The Hobbit, the book, and of course the movie trilogy, which has Bilbo obtaining the ring in a game of riddles from Smeagol, Gollum, if you will, which is certainly an influencing material of this series, the show. This is very much George Lucas's The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, this high fantasy epic series that it was inspired by that initial literature to begin with. So we get through there, and Borman and Allagash fight over the space to try and find the Chimerian cuirass, the actual armor itself, because the Lux Arcana is something that Borman has currently. And within there, Kit is drawn. She's drawn to what is inside here, and she sees Mad Mardigan's sword, which she takes, which I think is great. It's a connection to her father that she hasn't had in so long. And we hear Mad Mardigan's voice, Val Kilmer's voice, ladies and gentlemen, from beyond the veil. I'm not sure exactly where it is. It's just beyond that space. Like you can see like a portal almost to another realm, another dimension. Where it goes, nobody knows, frankly, at this point. That's where Mad Mardigan is searching at this point. And he's like, help me, pull me out, Kit. And she's almost about to jump through that portal herself. And evidently he couldn't take the sword with him and into this unknown space, but I mean she wouldn't have been able to either. But she was ready to make that leap to go and save him. I mean, it's her dad. She hasn't seen him in so long. That's incredible. That's incredible. And I saw on Twitter that David Collins said the performance is Val Kilmer. I evidently was involved with it, laid down the track or something like that, and had his son involved too, who helped to do some of the vocal work too. And they utilized the same voice engineering technology um, that was used for Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian in order to achieve that sound, the iconic Val Kilmer voice that we got to hear again in the sequence, which leads me to believe I don't know what sky's the limit, that maybe there is a chance that they could incorporate Val Kilmer into this series. We were kind of led to believe that it wasn't possible, at least in my understanding of things, and that they were going to essentially just kind of leave it hanging like a side thing, like Mad Mardigan is dead. I actually thought he was dead going into the series, that they were just going to write him off like that. But I think they found a more interesting way in order to incorporate him into the series, right? He's in this other world trying to find safe things that can provide safety for the realm, to protect his family, to protect his people, to protect Alora Dannon. That's amazing. And Mad Mardigan trusted that there were people beyond the realm in the original Mother World, right, where Willow and Sorsha are, and Allagash. He trusted that they would be able to protect Alora Dannon while he went off in search in this other world, and that's why he's able to do that. He felt comfortable doing that because he believed that others were there to protect this grand sorceress who's going to save the world one day, this chosen one prophecy. Whew, that's wild. That's wild. He said, he's like, you need to come save me. And Kit again tries to go in there, and Jade and Alora pull her out, and the tomb starts imploding. And you talk about B action movie serials. As soon as they get out of that tomb, there's another cliffhanger. There's trolls right there. Graydon rejoins the group, and they have this big battle. And there's only one way out, ladies and gentlemen. And Allagash sacrifices himself so that the group has enough time to escape, to move forward. That was amazing. That was incredible. I love that scene overall, and what it could mean for the future of this series, right? There's an avenue for Mad Mardigan. We got him in this series a little bit here. And I want to see where that goes next, because I'm excited about the prospects and the opportunity that is presented as a result. Now, in the final scene, or I guess the final scene with the main fellowship group here, I think that Kit has some of the best acting of the series. So I believe Ruby Cruz is the actress who portrays Kit, and I just want to really commend her performance and what she is able to dish here. Kit is reeling in pain and agony at the chance of like hearing her father's voice and the opportunity that she could have saved him, perhaps. She's struggling as to, this notion that she's finally able to put into words here, as she was kind of trying to formulate the entirety of the series up to this point. As to she's worried, like she's not worried, but she's frustrated, she's angry, she's upset. Why does everyone put everything into protecting Alora Dannon? Why is everything for her? I mean, this is selfish, of course, of her to think this way. Um, but it's real, it's raw, it's honest emotion. Why is Kit always second is basically what she's reeling with in this moment. It's heartbreaking. And then Kit's like, no matter what you do, you're all your goodwill intentions, things go wrong. Why don't you actually like live up to your title and the name? Like she's really throwing some harsh truths at her at this moment in time. And it's heartbreaking. She's really like living through a harsh moment currently. And after all that, Kit goes through the ground. And she I it's kind of weird to explain this, like how like she falls through the ice. Like there's this little bit of magma, I guess, or vermiscous goo that burns through this ice that they're walking on at the bottom of Skellen, and she falls through, and she's like, I don't know if she's in like a vat of water or if that is um vermiscous goo that she's actually in, because that could be frankly terrifying. Uh, if another person succumbs to the evil, I mean, maybe she does succumb to the evil. That's a wild philosophy to think of there, because we know about her family's lineage with Bavmorda and having that blood within her, the blood of the Six, right? Those predestined, or I guess with more inclination to follow in the steps of the withered crone. That's incredible to think about, which could lead to some wild sequences in the remaining 2 episodes of season 1 of this series. And I'm gonna keep saying season 1 because I don't think in any way, shape, or form that this is gonna be wrapped up with a nice bow on it by the end of the next 2 episodes, given the current pacing and where they're at of the series. Um, so that's gonna be interesting to see how they actually get her out, because Willow's doing his best, but the magic is clearly straining him with his staff in hand again. Cherlindrea's wand was found at the bottom of this space again, so thankfully that we're not lost on that one. I was getting worried towards the end of this episode that we wouldn't have this very important magical device in our hands again for this group. She has it again, and Alora is doing everything she possibly can magic wise to break through this ice that almost seems to be only broken by this evil, this vermiscous goo. So we're on that cliffhanger, and of course we go back to the Immortal City. I know we had this cold open that we didn't talk about at all, which it looks like vast nothingness, and this is probably the temptation of Eric in this part of the episode. They're trying to turn him to work with the crone. That's why they captured him. They wanted blood of the Six, which is exactly what he is, and he resists at first, but I think this is another cliffhanger. Eric finds another lady trapped in the Memorial City, and of course, I think she's uh, most would probably consider her to be an attractive young lady, and that seems to be his kryptonite, if you will. And he sees her there. She's like, "Is this real? You're real. What's the deal here?" I think this is definitely another form of temptation that the withered crone is going to do. Companionship, that seems to be right up there. Something that he's been starving for, longing for, wondering where people are, the answers, all that. He's looking fondly in her eyes. He's got that look on his face, and honestly, this all can't be good. The episode concludes with the nice sounds, ironically, of "Good Vibrations" by the Beach Boys, which is it's certainly a choice. It's almost cynical, I think, the way I interpret it, right? Because are we supposed to have good vibrations here? Are we supposed to trust that this isn't some sort of temptation here? I think it's the opposite here. So I'm going to be cynical about the aspect of that song's inclusion, right? I think it's the opposite of good vibrations. I think it's misleading to the audience, or a misdirect. Maybe going to lure us into some false sense of security or whatnot. But you got to think that the Wither Crone is going to pull out every aspect that she possibly can in order to uh, enact her ultimate victory over Laura Dannon. And she's on her home territory too, so, I mean, who knows the power that she has in order to create that, and frankly, we haven't been introduced to the Withered Crone, so frankly, this could be the Withered Crone itself right here that is now talking to him. I know we probably were imagining in our heads probably some older woman, um, and not like a young female that was the same age or seemingly presenting herself as the same age or roundabouts there as Eric. But this is an excellent episode, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you all enjoyed it just as much as I did at home, and I want to hear about your thoughts. We're in the new year now, and one of my things is to create new ways to engage and interact with the audience here at Forest Ghost Conversations, because we want to have these conversations and have these great discussions with you all. So, what do you think about this cliffhanger moment on Willow episode 6? Are you looking forward to the last 2 episodes of the series? Do you think it's going to end with a nice bow wrapped on top of it at the end of all this? Or do you think we're going to be leading off into a second season? These are all great questions, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. You can chat us up on all the social media channels available: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Hive. Would love to have these conversations with you all. So be sure to hit us up on all those places. Just search Force Ghost Conversations, and you'll find us in some way, shape, or form. And also tell your friends about us. We'd love to continue to grow the seats around the proverbial campfire that is Force Ghost Conversations. So if you can do that, that'd be great. You can also subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Leave a rating and a review too. Those go a long way in really helping us beat algorithms, which allows us to grow as a fan base also more organically too. So do all that stuff. Again, if you love what we're doing here on Force Ghost Conversations, you can check out our TeePublic store in order to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise, including our Willow-inspired logo, which is a really cool design and t-shirt, so you don't want to miss out on all that stuff. And with that, folks, we will be back very soon with a brand new episode in this new year, talking about all things Willow and Star Wars. I'm not sure exactly when the next episode will be coming out, but Bad Batch is around the corner. We got Willow too. So there's going to be a lot of Force Ghost Conversations coming your way, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to miss out. Trust me. So with that, folks, we will be back very soon. May the Force be with you. Thanks for listening and take care. Happy New Year.